Welcome back to the Ultimate Body Language Guide. In today's video, we're going to cover the midsection of the body, which includes the chest, the torso, the belly, and the hips. All of this information is taken directly from the Dictionary of Body Language by Joe Navarro. Please support him and his work by checking out his book. With that being said, let's begin. Deep breath, rapid breathing. This is when someone takes large breaths rapidly. This is usually a sign of stress, fear, or even anger. However, this depends on the situation. If your friend just finished a set at the gym, it would be normal to see him or her breathe like this. Shallow breath, rapid breathing. On the other hand, if someone is taking shallow breaths rapidly, it is usually a sign of fear or anxiety. The more shallow the breathing, the more anxiety this person is currently feeling. If you see someone doing this, you can instruct them to take large breaths slowly. This will help calm them down. Pressing on solar plexus. This is when someone presses on the solar plexus with their fingers. This area is filled with many nerves and creates a pacifying effect when pressed on. You can gauge how stressed out someone is by how hard they're pushing on this area. Palm on chest. This is when someone places their palm on their chest. This is used to show that they are feeling sincere about what they're saying. However, Joe Navarro makes a note that both the honest and deceptive will use this. Honest people will tend to do this with more force with their fingers wide apart, while deceptive people will do this less forcefully and with the fingertips touching instead of the entire palm. Collarbone massage. This is when someone massages the collarbone area on the opposite side of their body with their hand. This is often done when someone feels vulnerable or stressed, as the hand being drawn across the chest provides a sense of security. Massaging the collarbone area also helps calm you down. Hand raking of chest. This is when you go back and forth on the upper area of your chest with your hand in a rake-like position, where the fingers are curled up like a rake. This is a very good indicator of anxiety. It is often seen during a panic attack. Pulling clothing to ventilate. This is when someone pulls on their clothing to move the air trapped underneath. This is usually done when someone feels hot, which could be because of the weather, but it could also be a sign that something is wrong. When something suddenly happens that causes us to feel stressed, our body temperature tends to rise quickly. In these situations, we might try to ventilate in order to relieve the stress and cool ourselves down. Body chill. Now, it's important to note that some people actually get colder during stressful situations. This happens because the blood that usually goes to the skin is redirected towards the muscles instead. Playing with clothing. This is when someone plays on their zipper or the strings on their clothing near the midsection of their body. This is a pacifying behavior often used when things are tense or when someone feels nervous. It is also seen when someone is simply bored. Leaning away. This is when you're interacting with another person and they lean away from you during the conversation. If you are sitting very close to this person, this movement can be very subtle. This is usually a sign of disagreement and is often seen during talk shows where someone says something that the other person does not agree with. Sitting back. This is when someone pushes their chair back while sitting and leans back away from the others at the table. This movement is often seen when someone needs to think about something. If this happens during a group discussion, it can mean that this person wants to sit out of the conversation for a bit and think. It could also be a sign that they don't support what is currently being discussed in the conversation. You will have to look at their facial expressions to try and gauge this. Sitting forward. This is when someone leans forward while sitting down during an interaction. This is usually an indicator that they are ready to agree on something, that they've made up their mind, and that they are ready to move forward. However, you need to be careful with this sign during your own interactions. If you lean forward too much or too early on, this can often be taken as a sign that you are too invested or too eager. It makes you seem a bit desperate, which can be extremely detrimental when it comes to negotiations and even dating. Belly away. The belly area is one of the most vulnerable places, which is why we will often turn this area away from someone if they are making us feel uncomfortable. If you see someone doing this, it can be a sign that they disagree with what's being said. Belly towards. On the other hand, when we like someone, we will turn our belly area towards them. This is usually a sign that someone is feeling comfortable or interested in the person they're interacting with. If you're interacting with a stranger, you can tell if you are building rapport by observing whether or not they move their belly area towards you as time goes on. If it's been like 30 minutes and the belly area is still facing away from you, this is usually a sign that they want you to leave. Belly covering. This is when someone covers their belly area with an object. It could be a bag, a pillow, or even their hand. This is usually done when someone feels scared or vulnerable. Mirroring. This is when someone mirrors the body language of the person they are interacting with. Most of the time, mirroring is done unconsciously using the torso area. You will often see people leaning the same way. This is usually a sign that both individuals feel comfortable with each other. It can also suggest that they are in agreement with what's being said. Rigid sitting. This is when someone sits upright and barely moves, sort of like a statue. This is a freeze response where the person is so afraid that they can't even move, often seen during interrogations and interviews. Ejection seat effect. This is when someone sits in a chair and grips onto the armrest tightly, as if they were about to be ejected out of a fighter jet. This is also a freeze response and is a sign that this person is extremely scared. Slouching. This is when someone intentionally slouches more while interacting with another. It is often used to show others that they don't really care about what's being said. You should avoid this in formal settings. Doubling over. This is when someone bends over at the waist while sitting or standing as if they were experiencing stomach pain. This is a sign that this person is currently experiencing a lot of emotional turmoil, often seen when someone receives extremely bad news. Fetal position. This is when someone brings their knees up to their chest and curls up into a ball, either sitting up or laying down. This is a sign that the person is currently experiencing extreme negative emotions and is used to help deal with the stress. Belly movements pregnant. If a pregnant woman feels threatened or scared, she will instinctively cover her belly instead of covering her throat in order to protect the fetus. Pregnant women will also rub their belly as a way to deal with discomfort. Scientists have even found that doing so releases oxytocin, also known as the love hormone, which serves as a pacifying movement. Hip shifting. This is when someone wiggles their butt, usually done while sitting. This is often used while feeling bored or stressed out. It could also be a sign that they are simply tired of sitting for so long. According to Joe Navarro, this movement is often seen during debates when a participant gets too emotional and is used to calm themselves down. Hip rubbing. This is when someone rubs the side of their hips up and down. This is usually a sign that they're feeling nervous. It's a pacifying movement, but they could also simply be dealing with some sweaty hands. Hip rocking. This is when someone rocks back and forth while sitting. This is usually a sign that the person is experiencing severe stress, such as a death of a loved one. This behavior is also seen in those with mental disorders. Hip swaying. On the other hand, if the hips are being moved left to right instead of back and forth, this is usually a sign of boredom. Apparently, this movement replicates the feeling of being rocked as a baby, so it's very soothing for many of us. Hips out. This is when someone stands with one leg slightly bent, which makes their butt look bigger. This movement is used by both men and women, and it's used as a way to grab attention, often seen in the courting process. Genital framing. This is when someone places their thumbs inside their pants or belt to create a frame around their crotch. This is a dominance display, mostly used by men to appear bigger, stronger, and tougher. It's also used to grab attention. Genital covering. This is when someone covers their genitals with their hands. This movement is often used when one feels anxious. It's a way to protect your vulnerable area. Now, in order to practice your body language reading skills, I recommend you rewatch this video while covering the text with the audio turned off and see if you can tell how the actors are feeling. Make sure to test yourself on the previous videos as well to make sure you internalize everything you've learned so far. This episode was brought to you with the help of the guys at Skillshare. If you're like me and you always struggled in school because you simply weren't interested in any of those topics that you were forced to study, then here's a strategy that would probably work for you. Go learn a skill online that you're actually interested in, become exceptionally good at it, and make a living that way. And Skillshare is the perfect place for this. They are an online learning community with thousands of classes with topics ranging from things like copywriting to animation. Skillshare is giving away a free trial of their premium membership to the first 1,000 people who click on the link in the description box below. After that, it's only around $10 a month, which is incredibly affordable compared to what you would have to pay to learn these skills in an in-person class. Recently, I've decided to take a class on nonfiction writing, creative nonfiction, Write Truth in Style by Suzanne Orlean, because I want to improve my ability to create content for the channel. If you're interested in creating value online to grow a following, I would suggest this course as well. In our next video, we'll be covering the arms and shoulders. The moment that video is released, I will add a link down below. Besides that, guys, stay tuned.